Good evening, and thank you for joining me for another Boring Books for Bedtime. I hope tonight's selection provides all the boredom your busy brain needs to quiet down and let you get some sleep. Before we begin, I'd like to give a special shout out of thanks to some new members of our Patreon family: Amy, Elizabeth, Sarah, Barb, Claire, Elizabeth T., Cookie, Michelle, and Dax. Thank you all so much for supporting this podcast. By becoming members of Patreon, you help us remain 100% listener-supported and ad-free for everyone, and it's very much appreciated. If you're interested in supporting Boring Books for Bedtime and finding out more about the perks available to subscribers, including exclusive episodes heard nowhere else, you'll find a link to Patreon in the show description. You'll also find a link to buymeacoffee.com, where you can support us with a one-time tip, no subscription required. I hope you'll take a moment to check them out. Now, let's read and relax. Find a comfortable spot. Adjust your volume. Take a nice deep breath in. Let it out slowly. And off we go. Tonight, let's relax while learning a useful and delicious trade, with a reading that may or may not have been suggested by one of your fellow listeners. I honestly can't remember, but if this was you, thank you so much. Tonight we're reading Frye's Practical Candy Maker, comprising practical receipts for the manufacture of fine handmade candies, especially adapted for fine retail trade, by G.V. Frye, Practical Candy Maker, Chicago, Illinois. Entered according to Act of Congress in the year 1884 by G.V. Frye, in the office of the Librarian of Congress at Washington. Printed by the press of E.J. Decker, Chicago. Let's begin. Copyright secured. I authorize any lawyer or other person in the United States to notify me should anyone attempt to reprint the foregoing receipts. I will pay them, and all infringements will be prosecuted to the full extent of the law. G.V. Frye. Preface. It is not my intention, in presenting this volume to the trade, to write a long, dry dissertation on confectionery, but to give plain, practical receipts for the manufacture of fine, handmade countergoods. And as I make no pretensions to literary merit, I hope to disarm criticism. The work is the fruit of years of personal experience in the manufacture of fine candies, and though containing much, it does not pretend to teach all that a candy maker should know. That must be learned by years of practice. Although not perfect, confectioners will find this little volume a useful one, if not invaluable. Its utility even to those who are skilled in the art of candy making appears to the writer to be great. But it is more especially designed for confectioners, whose business does not justify their securing the services of skilled workmen. Many confectioners would be glad to exhibit to their customers a fine display of choice handmade candies, knowing that by doing so, they would soon increase their trade, but the wages of a good workman in this line are high, and he cannot afford to keep one. The prices asked for the goods by those that will wholesale them make them too expensive to be practical, and at the same time the goods do not ship in good order, even if he had a favorable opportunity of buying them. So he is obliged to handle a line of cheap goods, which seldom give any satisfaction, or at least do not create a desire for candies from his place. Hence his trade, or what should be his trade, is swallowed up by those whose goods are fresh and tempting. To such the importance of this little volume, ready at call to assist the confectioner in making a fine line of counter goods, is too plain to require discussion. In conclusion, I earnestly hope these practical receipts will be an acceptable offering to a very large number of confectioners whose prosperity I would promote. To them it is commended with the respects of the author, G. V. Frye. Frye's Practical Candy Maker. Sugar. In selecting sugar, the confectioner must bear in mind that it is the foundation of all confectionery, and he cannot expect to manufacture first-class goods except from first-class material. Hence, select only sugar that is perfectly dry and of uniform quality, and in white, hard, sparkling crystals. Only such sugar will give satisfaction. In addition to selecting sugar, particular attention must be paid to the changes that sugar undergoes in passing from one degree to another while cooking, and also its action when united with such ingredients as cream of tartar, glucose, molasses, nuts, fruits, etc. This must be done if one expects to be a proficient workman in the art of making fine candies. Facts for the workman. To have the following receipts produce the results desired, certain conditions are imposed on the workman. In the first place, the best of confectioner's sugar must be used. Second, 1 quart of water to each 6 pounds of sugar, unless more than 18 pounds is used, in which case add only 1 pint of water to each additional 6 pounds. Third, the amount of cream of tartar or glucose mentioned in each receipt. Fourth, that all goods are to be cooked over a rapid fire unless otherwise ordered. To show the importance of this, I will illustrate. In several places, I have said cook the sugar until it begins to turn yellow, or about 330 degrees by the thermometer. Now, if the best sugar, right amount of cream of tartar and water, and the batch is boiled over a rapid fire, it will not vary but a degree or so from turning at 330 degrees. But if a lower grade of sugar is used, more cream of tartar, more water, and the batch is boiled over a slow fire, the sugar will turn probably before the batch reaches 300 degrees, and the goods when made would soon become sticky and unfit for the counter. There are often times when a poorer grade of sugar must be worked, and there is no reason why poor goods should be made from it, but good judgment is necessary. If the sugar is damp, use only water enough to dissolve it. Use less cream of tartar and cook over a very rapid fire. Yet such sugar cannot be used for first-class goods, and should not be used at all unless the best cannot be procured. In flavoring candies, never use ether flavors, only pure fruit extracts and oils. Put all hard sugar goods as soon as made into airtight tin boxes, so they are not exposed to the atmosphere until needed for the counter. In coloring, the cheaper grades of hard candies always make decided colors, but in the finer hard goods and cream work make only delicate shades. Always dissolve cream of tartar in a small quantity of water before adding it to the batch. Degrees of boiling sugar. Thread. The first degree found in boiling sugar is called the thread. The manner of ascertaining this is, having placed the batch on the furnace, which for example we will call 6 pounds of sugar and 1 quart of water, stir with a wooden spatula or skimming ladle until dissolved. Having boiled a short time, raise the skimmer from the batch. Pass the forefinger of the left hand across it, retaining on the end of the finger some of the syrup. Now place the end of the finger on the thumb and separate them. If a thread is formed between them, which breaks and settles on the thumb, the degree is reached. By the thermometer, this degree is 220. By saccharometer, 33 degrees. Pearl. The next degree is the pearl, and is indicated by trying as before, and if able to separate finger and thumb to fullest extent, the degree is reached. The thermometer will show at this degree 226 degrees, the saccharometer 37 degrees. Blow. Continue the boiling and raising the skimmer, blow through it. If small air bubbles appear on the opposite side, the blow is reached, and the thermometer will show 230 degrees, saccharometer 40 degrees. Feather. Proceed with the boiling a few minutes. Raise the skimmer and blow through it as before. If a greater number of air bubbles appear, the degree is reached. The thermometer will indicate 236 degrees, saccharometer 42 degrees. Soft ball. The next degree is the soft ball and is determined in the following manner. Place a measure of cold water near the furnace, and after inserting the right hand in the water, reach in the batch with 2 forefingers and bring out a small portion of syrup, immediately putting your hand back in the water. And if you can work the syrup into a soft ball in the water, it has reached that degree. The thermometer showing 240 degrees, saccharometer 44 degrees. Hard ball. In a short time try as before, and if you can form the syrup into a hard ball that will stick to the teeth when bitten, the degree is reached. The thermometer showing 248 degrees. The saccharometer after this degree ceases to indicate correctly. Soft crack. The next degree reached, after continuing the boiling for a short time, is the soft crack. Try in the water as before, and if the syrup cracks when pressed by the finger and thumb, but on holding a moment forms into a hard ball again, it is the degree sought. The thermometer shows this degree to be 252 degrees. Crack. Test as before, and if the syrup cracks easily and will not form a ball, it has reached the crack. The thermometer marks this degree 260 degrees. Hard crack. The next degree we use is when, after being tested as before, it cracks like eggshells and will eat up readily. The thermometer shows at this degree 290 degrees. The degrees higher than the hard crack or 290 degrees are used only for such goods as machine drops, stick candies, etc., and will be explained as we proceed. Colors. In choosing colors for candy, certain qualifications are necessary. First, they must not fade or change when exposed to the light. Second, they must not be easily affected by acids or alkalis. Hence, it has been difficult to produce colors that are reasonably permanent and at the same time harmless. Yet the following will be found as near perfect as any yet produced. Red or cochineal color. Put on the fire in a copper basin 2 quarts of water. When it comes to a boil, add 1/4 of a pound powdered alum, then the same amount of powdered cochineal. Next, the same quantity of salts of tartar. Let it boil a minute, stirring all the time, then set off the fire and stir in 6 ounces cream of tartar. Place again on the fire and boil about 5 minutes. Then strain through a fine sieve. When cool enough, put into a glass jar. Do not cover it, as it keeps much better when open to the air. Carmine. Take a 3 or 4 ounce bottle. Fill half full of best number 40 carmine and add ammonia sufficient to fill the bottle. Shake well and it is ready for use. Yellow saffron color. Put into a basin 1 pint of water. Add to it 2 ounces of Spanish saffron, 12 ounces of sugar, and 1 ounce of powdered alum. Boil these together for 8 or 10 minutes. Then strain through a damp flannel bag. When cold, add to it 1 gill of spirits of wine and bottle for use. Another yellow. This is made in the same way as the above, except use fustic instead of saffron and 1 quart of water. It comes cheaper, but when used with powdered sugar often turns brown, as much of the powdered sugar contains traces of iron, being ground in iron mills, but used with other goods, it produces a bright yellow. Orange. This is made by adding red color to the yellow and is done as you need it by simply coloring whatever you want orange a bright yellow, then add to it a few drops of red. Green. Take 1 peck of fresh spinach. Rub it to a pulp in a mortar. Squeeze from it all juice possible and put it in a basin on the fire, and it will soon curdle as milk does when sour. Immediately set off and strain through a fine sieve. Take the curd and add to it its bulk in powdered sugar, a few drops of spirits of wine, and what powdered alum you can hold on the point of a penknife. Bottle for use. Another nice green can be made by adding to the second formula given for making yellow a sufficient quantity of indigo to make it the shade desired. Blue. Powder 1/2 ounce of indigo. Add to it enough simple syrup to make it the consistency of cream, and 1/2 ounce spirits of wine. Burnt sugar color. Take any quantity of scrap, dissolve and strain them. Set on the fire and cook until it begins to burn. Now deaden the fire a little and let burn slowly until very black, and the syrup, when raising the spatula, does not run off freely. Then add very slowly 2 gallons of boiling water to each 10 pounds of syrup, cooked by means of a long-handled dipper, pouring a stream no larger than a straw at first. When all is added, let boil a few moments, then put into a crock for use. Stick candies. As this line of goods are sold so cheap, the manufacturer of it is almost entirely confined to the wholesale factory, the retailer preferring to buy rather than to make it. Yet for those who may wish to make their own, below will be found a formula which will make first-class goods. But it must be remembered that considerable practice and good taste is necessary to make nice stick candy. Peppermint stick. 12 pounds of sugar, 2 quarts of water. Stir until dissolved. Then add 1 full teaspoon of cream of tartar, or if you wish to use glucose, add 3 pounds of same. Do this when you are weighing your sugar by hollowing out a place in the center of the sugar and pouring in the glucose. Now put on the steamer and let it remain until the batch begins to cook. Then remove. In this way, all the grains of sugar adhering to the sides of the basin are washed down. However, if any should remain, they must be removed with a damp sponge or cloth, as otherwise they might grain your batch. Now cook till the sugar just begins to turn yellow. Then remove it once and pour out on a greased slab, or if boiling by a thermometer, remove the batch at about 330 degrees. Now throw in the edges of the batch and fold all together. Take about 2 pounds of the batch while it is still hot and add to it red color and work it in with your hands or a batch knife. Then place it on the spinning table before the heater to keep it warm. Now place the batch on the hook and flavor with peppermint oil and pull perfectly white. Then form it into a roll. Take about 1/2 of the red piece and pull it into a wide strip just long enough to reach lengthwise across the batch. Then spin out the remainder of the red into 6 small strips and place them in same manner on batch about 1 inch apart. Then taking hold of one end of the batch with your right hand, hold it up, letting it form itself into the shape of a wine bottle. Now roll it before the heater until it is warm enough to spin out nicely, and while one person keeps the batch in shape, let another spin it out, rolling it as he does so. When of the length desired, break it off by suddenly striking it with the edge of the hand or cutting with the shears, and have a third party roll until cold. Then cut the sticks in lengths wanted by means of the candy shears. Lemon stick. Prepare and cook same as peppermint. Leave the batch clear and flavor with lemon oil on the slab before throwing it together. Then taking about or a little more than half the quantity that you colored red for mint, pull white on the hook. Form this into strips on the batch as you did in mint. Then spin out somewhat smaller, as the candy, being clear, will weigh heavier. Wintergreen stick. Same as before, except when it begins to boil, color red in the basin. When poured out on the slab and cooled enough to pull, reserve about 1 pound of the clear red for the stripes. Then, having pulled the remainder a nice pink shade, form the clear red piece into 3 stripes of even size and place them on the batch about 3 inches apart and proceed as before. Cinnamon stick. Same as peppermint, except put 3 red stripes as in wintergreen. Sassafras stick. Pulled white with 2 red and 1 yellow stripe, the yellow being between the red. Clove stick. Clear with 3 white stripes of even size. Fruit rock. These goods require a great deal of practice, and a new beginner will waste considerable sugar before he can accomplish it in first-class style. I shall explain a few kinds, and by the time you can make these nicely, you will be able to make any design you may wish. Strawberry rock. Boil any amount of sugar. Treat it in the same manner as for stick candy. When done, pour out almost 2/3 of the batch on the slab, and color the rest red in the basin, and place again on the furnace, stirring the color into the batch, then pour out. Now take a small piece of the first poured out, say 3/4 of a pound, color it green and place it before the heater. Now pull the remaining perfectly white. Take about 1 pound of this and form into a roll, about 4 or 5 inches in length. Then wrap around this about 1/3 of your red batch. Now spin this out about 5 feet in length and cut it into 15 pieces about 4 inches in length. Now put 5 of these together, then 4 on top of these, then 3, then 2 and 1, forming a triangle. Now form your green into a very thin, wide strip about 12 inches in length. Cut in 3 equal pieces. Lay 2 of these flat on the table and stand the third one in the middle. Now place a block of white on either side of the perpendicular piece, forming a square of the whole. Place this on the base of the triangle already formed. Now wrap all the white remaining around the whole. Then forming the red into a thin sheet, wrap around the white and spin out as stick candy. When cold, cut into small cuts by holding a stick in the left hand, letting it rest on an iron bar, and cutting with a knife in the right. Lemon slices. Having cooked your batch same as last, pour all out on the slab and color 1/4 yellow. Pull another 1/4 white. Take of the white just pulled 1/2 pound and roll all the clear around it in such a way as the white will be in the center. Then cut this into 2 pieces, one being somewhat larger than the other. Take the larger one, spin it out into a strip about 3 feet in length, and cut into 6 sticks of even length. Place 2 of these together and a third one on top, forming a triangle. Do the same with the other 3. Cut a small piece from the pulled piece left and form it into 2 thin sheets, and cover 2 sides of the 2 triangles. Pull out the remaining clear piece, same as the other, and form 2 more triangles. Then place the 2 triangles covered white opposite each other, and then the 2 other ones opposite, the sharp edges of all meeting in the center. Now wrap the white remaining around this, then the yellow, and spin out as before. Checkerboard. Having poured the batch on the slab, Color 1/3 of it chocolate. This is done by kneading into the batch about 1 1/2 ounces of melted chocolate to each pound. Now leave another 1/3 of the batch clear and pull the remaining third, reserving from it before pulling 1 1/2 pounds. Form the clear into a square, also the chocolate, and place both together. Then pull it out 8 feet in length, keeping the strips square. Now cut into 16 pieces of 6 inches each and build into a square block, the chocolate on the clear on the chocolate. Then wrap the white around it and spin out the small clear piece into very small strips and place them on the batch about 1 inch apart. Proceed to spin out as before. Lettered candy. This is made in the same manner as the fruit rock and simply requires good taste and practice. Drops. Lemon or sour drops. Cook your batch the same as for lemon stick, about 12 pounds. Pour it out on the slab. Fill an ordinary glass half full of tartaric acid. Add a little water and work it into a paste. Scatter this over the batch, also a few drops of lemon oil. Now throw the batch together and with the batch knife work the acid through the batch. When cold enough, run through the drop machine, any design desired. Remember the acid and flavor must be worked in while the batch is still hot. The old way of using the acid dry does not make as nice a drop as the paste. Mint drops. Take 12 pounds of sugar. Treat it in the same manner as you would for mint stick. Color about 2 pounds red for the stripes. Pull the rest white. Form it into a roll and place fine red strips around the batch, about 1 inch apart. Spin out as stick candy, but do not roll it, as the stripes should remain straight. Run through a sour drop cutter. Old-style mint drops. Cook any number of pounds of clear scraps as high as possible without burning. Use no cream of tartar or glucose. Pour on the slab and flavor with mint oil before throwing together. Pull a small piece of the batch as white as possible and form it into stripes about 1 inch apart around the batch and run through a drop machine. Malt drops. 12 pounds of sugar, small spoon of cream of tartar or 2 pounds of glucose, and cook until sugar begins to turn, or about 330 degrees by the thermometer, if using cream of tartar. If glucose, the sugar will turn sooner. Now add about 1 pint extract of malt slowly. This should be warm before adding. Stir until batch is ready to pour on the slab, which will require a few moments, as the malt reduces the batch. Be very careful and not let it scorch or burn, as that will destroy the fine flavor of the malt. Run through a drop machine, any design wished. Lime juice drops. 12 pounds of sugar, small spoon of cream of tartar, or 3 pounds of glucose. Cook until sugar is just on the point of turning yellow, keeping the sides of the basin well washed down. Pour out at once on oiled or greased slab. Add to batch about 1/2 as much tartaric acid as for lemon drops. Form the acid into a paste by adding to it a few drops of lime juice. Work it into the batch in the same way as for lemon, together with half a teaspoon green color and a few drops of oil of lime. Then run through a drop machine, forming a thin round or square drop. Wild cherry drops. 12 pounds of sugar, small spoon of cream of tartar or 3 pounds of glucose. When it boils, add a few drops of red color, just enough to tint the batch. Then cook to a very hard crack or 300 or 310 degrees. Set off and stir in a tablespoon of extract of wild cherry and pour out on a greased slab between iron bars. Make the batch cover a space at least 3 feet square. As soon as it cools a little, run over it with a caramel marker, both ways. This must be done quickly, or the batch will get too cold to mark. Horehound drops. Boil in 3 quarts of water for 5 or 10 minutes, about 5 ounces of horehound. Then strain through a fine sieve. Take this liquor and add to it 12 pounds of sugar and a small spoon of cream of tartar, or 2 pounds of glucose, and cook to a hard crack, or 290 or 300 degrees. Then pour out and run through a machine, or mark with a caramel marker as wild cherry. All or part clear scraps can be used instead of sugar, in which case use no cream of tartar or glucose. Bone set drops. Same as horehound, except make a liquor of bone set instead of horehound. Iceland moss drops. Boil 5 ounces of Iceland moss in 3 quarts of water for 10 minutes. Strain and add to liquor 12 pounds of sugar, small spoon cream of tartar, or 2 pounds glucose. When it comes to a boil, color a deep red. Cook to same degree as horehound. Flavor with a few drops oil of anise and pour on slab between iron bars and mark with caramel marker. Flaxseed drops. 6 pounds of sugar, 1 quart of water, small spoon of cream of tartar, or 1 or 2 pounds of glucose. Cook to a hard crack, then stir in 3 ounces of whole or powdered flax seeds and let cook a few moments. Pour out and either mark into squares with caramel marker or run through a drop machine. English barley sugar drops. 6 pounds of sugar, small spoon cream of tartar, or 1 pound of glucose. Cook to a hard crack or 290 degrees. Stir in 4 ounces of butter and a few drops of lemon oil. Then pour out and mark as Iceland moss, etc. Tar drops. 6 pounds of sugar, small spoon of cream of tartar, or 2 pounds of glucose. Cook to a hard crack or 290 degrees. Pour out on a well-greased slab and add about a small spoon of pine tar. Then with a batch knife work it through the batch and run through a drop machine. Fruit drops, 5 flavors. 20 pounds of sugar, 3 quarts of water, a heaping teaspoon of cream of tartar, or 16 pounds of sugar and 4 pounds of glucose. Cook till the sugar begins to turn yellow, then pour out at once. To 1/4 of the batch, add 2 or 3 drops of red color, just enough to make it a bright pink. Then 2 full teaspoons of tartaric acid paste and a few drops of nectar. To another 1/4 of the batch, add sufficient red color to make it a deep red, the same quantity of acid paste, and a few drops of strawberry flavor. To the remaining half of the batch, add as much acid as was given to the other 2 and a few drops of lemon oil. Run these through a drop machine, forming round drops. Now cook 10 pounds of sugar in the same manner. Color 1/2 of it orange shade and flavor. Add acid paste as before. The other half color green. Add flavor of lime juice. Run through the same set of rolls. Taffies. Vanilla taffy. 6 pounds of sugar. Small spoon of cream of tartar or 2 pounds of glucose. Cook just to the crack or 252 degrees. Add to it while cooking 1 vanilla bean split in 2. When poured on the slab, remove the bean, and when cold enough, pull perfectly white. Remove from the hook and pull into long strips. Then cut into pieces 3 or 4 inches in length and wrap in wax paper. If brittle taffy is wanted, cook this same batch to the hard crack or 290 degrees. Form it into a large cake, which may be broken with a hammer as sold. If flavoring with the extract instead of the bean, do so while pulling on the hook. Pineapple taffy. Cook same as vanilla, except add no flavor in basin, and let the batch reach the hard crack degree. Then pour out 2/3 of the batch. Color the rest in the basin a bright red. Pull the first poured out white and flavor pineapple. Form it into a cake, and having spread the red pieces out into a sheet, cover it over the white. Chocolate taffy. Same as vanilla. When on the slab, add to the batch 6 ounces melted chocolate. Work it into the batch with a batch knife. Coconut taffy. 6 pounds of sugar, small spoon of cream of tartar or 3 pounds of glucose. Cook to the hard crack, then add 3 grated coconuts. Stir until the batch reaches the soft crack. Pour out at once. When sufficiently cold, pull white on the hook and run out into strips. Cut into pieces any length desired and wrap in wax paper. Old-style molasses taffy. 5 pounds of sugar and 1 gallon of NO molasses. Put on the fire and cook to a hard ball. Then add 2 pounds of sweet butter and continue the cooking until the batch just reaches the soft crack, or 252 degrees if in winter. If in summer, cook to the crack or 260 degrees. Pour out on a greased slab and pull to a bright golden color. Form into strips and cut into bars 4 or 5 inches in length. Wrap in wax paper. Another molasses taffy. 3 pounds of sugar, 3 pounds of glucose, and 1 quart of molasses. Cook to the soft crack. Set off and stir into the batch 1 teaspoon of saleratus. Pour on a slab, and when nearly cold, pull and flavor on the hook, either with a few drops of lemon oil, bitter almond oil, or extract of mace. Run out into bars as before. Extra fine taffies. Hickory nut taffy. 6 pounds of sugar and just enough molasses to color. A small spoon of cream of tartar, or 4 pounds of sugar and 2 of glucose. Cook to the hard crack. Pour out on a greased slab, and before throwing together, scatter over it about 2 pounds of chopped up hickory nuts. Work the nuts into the batch, then run it through a flake machine about 2 inches wide, and mark with caramel marker into sticks. These are very nice goods for fancy boxes. Walnut taffy. Same as hickory nut, with the exception of the nuts. Coconut taffy. Same as others, except add 3 grated coconuts when batch has reached the hard crack, and stir until the batch again reaches the same degree. Run through the flake machine as wide as the machine will admit. Then mark with a caramel marker diagonally 2 ways, forming diamonds. These are very handsome. Brazil nut taffy. Same as walnut or hickory nut, but use no molasses, and when done, set off and stir in 1 teaspoon saleratus. Mark into sticks. And before we launch ourselves into the exciting world of bar candies, I think we'll end this evening's reading from Frye's Practical Candy Maker, comprising practical receipts for the manufacture of fine handmade candies, which was a bit of a delicious delight to read. I hope you enjoyed the world of 19th century candy as well. If you'd like to read this work for yourself, as always, you'll find a link to a free ebook from Project Gutenberg in the show description. If you'd like to connect, suggest a boring book you'd like to hear read, or request more from one we've already started, you can drop me an email via our website, www.boringbookspod.com. It's always a pleasure to hear from you. Thank you so much for joining me for this evening's reading. Until our next boring book, good night.